And hey everyone, this is episode 390 of the OotiniCast. What you're seeing right now is the raw version of the show, which will go out on YouTube as well. It's also being streamed live. Which will go out on YouTube as well. It's also being streamed. And it's being streamed out on OotiniCast at twitch.tv/OotiniCast. We'll be getting going on the actual episode here in just a moment. All right, so Doc, I think because of the name change, we're gonna actually kind of start with you today, if that's okay. Because otherwise, it's gonna get really awkward. Like, why am I, why people will be asking, why am I not calling you Dr SWTOR anymore?
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like it'll get awkward if we don't go right to you, or at least right to that particular part. So, All right, so let's let me tweet this out. And then we'll be good to go. All right. Twitch.
We might not recognize Doc with his new name change.
That's right.
A few people have run into that, but I did have about 2 weeks where my logo was the same. Then I had the logo update.
That's right.
And I've discussed it on my stream as often as people have asked. Someone asked yesterday. Dreadism popped in for the first time in a couple weeks and asked what that was about. So I explained it. I think I have a pretty logically sound discussion piece about that.
Well, we'll need it here too, I'm sure. So. All right, if you're all ready, we'll get going on 5. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast that will be malfunctioning inside a day. This is episode 390, being recorded on Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. I'm your host, Jill, and with me is my co-host, Dr SWTOR, now known as Dr Gameology. How you doing, Doc?
A new contestant has entered the arena. Hi, Chill. How are you doing?
Doing great. And we do have Dek back. Hey, Dekion. How you doing?
Hey, guys. Doing great. Thanks for having me back.
Great. And, of course, we'll get to your week in just a sec, but I do want to go over the name change. So, Doc, since the last episode, you've had a big rebranding, renaming, and you've got a new logo on your accounts and so on. So tell us all about what's going on, why you made the change, and what it means.
All right, so there's a lot of things that I do besides SWTOR and Star Wars: The Old Republic and OotiniCast stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, my first published work as a counselor educator was my dissertation. And I came on OotiniCast and talked with you and Tio back in the day, and we got hundreds of people to participate, and that's always going to be the starting point. So the first thing I want people to understand is, although I do get cranky and think the game is incredibly unbalanced and they hate lightning sorcerers, and I'm really trying so hard to kill nightmare bosses, and I don't think that BioWare cares. All of that's still true, but I still love the game. You know, I played it last night. I helped some friends of mine on Starforge beat Objective Meridian for the first time, and I got to do Dread Palace. Well, I had counseling to do last night for people, so I got to do 2 of the boss fights to help them finish off 16-man Dread Palace. They didn't need me, but it's cooler to have 15 instead of 14. So when I became available, Marcus and Scrubland Chad both kind of messaged to me and said there was a spot, and Marcus really kind of dragged me into the op, and so I started throwing lightning at things. So Star Wars: The Old Republic is still incredibly important to me, but also the challenges I'm working on are, they're giving me 2 streams every week in the evening times, and I don't plan on those going anywhere, but I'm also playing a lot of other games.
Okay.
And I'm able, through doing that, to share the psychological insights and connections to those games. And so gameology is a real word, first and foremost. It's the study of video games, and I guess you could apply it to board games and other gaming, but most often when people use that word, they are referring to the study of video games.
Right.
In a scientific way. And so I've been thinking, if I'm not Dr. SWTOR, and I've been pondering this question. If I'm not Dr SWTOR, then what am I? And then you have to worry about, is that handle available on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram? Can I make a Facebook page? Like, is the branding going to be consistent? So there have been a couple names that I felt might be it, but then someone else has had that account and made one tweet in 2011, and so they have the ad.
Yeah. Dr. Games or whatever the close variation or other idea that you had, but someone else had done it. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I started reading more in connection to the professional side of things. There's a certificate program that's starting for educating counselors on video game disorder, which that whole premise is why my dissertation topic flew when I tried to say to my professors, hey, I think you should let me do this study for my doctoral research. And they bought the explanation back then in 2014-15. And now we're at a point in the mental health profession where counselors are realizing, just like they did 20 years ago with gambling, we need to have language to be able to have intelligent, competent conversations with people who come to our office, and gaming is such a big part of their life that it's actually devastating them. And so that's the unfortunate side of what I do as well, is I love games, and I'm always going to see if I can start with the positive psychology aspects. I think it's really fascinating how a company like BioWare can construct a digital virtual world experiment and convince us to be the rats pressing all the levers to get our food.
Right.
And I always will believe that. I don't think it's nefarious, but it can become nefarious. There are certain companies who use that in a dastardly, villainous kind of way. And it's obvious too. So then when people play those games, sometimes they develop pathological symptoms. And so Gameology covers the full range of that. The handle was available. And as soon as I realized that, then it's like 2 hours of me my phone is sitting on my desk, and imagine me pacing left and right in my office. Like,
right.
How many other people who are pursuing their PhD are gonna, it might not be there tomorrow. So I decided to change the name. And so, like I said, I had a couple weeks where Dr. SWTOR's logo was still there. And I think that helped for people to connect with me and kind of get in and hear a little bit of this explanation. The real catalyst, though, is that certificate program I mentioned. They reached out to me and asked me to be a founding member of their faculty advisory board for the larger board that is housing the certificate. So,
cool.
Their intention is to have me as a confidant and research specialist that can lend a credible voice to talking about what video games are and what role counselors and psychologists have in speaking on the issue, and also training them to understand games closer and closer to the way that I understand them. Because, if you're playing 120 hours a week, just knowing a number isn't enough to say that's a problem. But, missing work, responsibilities are dropping, bills are not getting paid, relationships are being ignored. Then I hope that people like that will come cross paths with me in ways other than me helping them defeat a raid boss. So my supervision session that I did with my Florida group of counselors at the beginning of June, I was talking about this certificate, and I was talking about how if they need to reach me during the month, if they wanted to pop in to Twitch and I happen to be live, you could ask me a question instantly right there. I love talking about that stuff on my stream. And they couldn't, kind of with dyslexia, they couldn't understand what a SWTOR was. and that was it, right? That was where I just decided, before the end of next week, I need to find a handle that if a counselor finds me, they'll see that name and know what I do.
Right.
It's just a reality. Counselors might know what WoW is. They might know what GTA and COD are. They might know what LOL is. None of them know what a SWTOR is. So
Right.
I had to try. I decided after years of, yeah, but that's not my problem. It kind of felt that weekend like it
Now
kind
it
of is
is. Yeah.
now. Now it is. Yeah.
Right.
So
You're getting
I
far enough beyond the realms of, of your dissertation and, other sort of directly SWTOR related things that now you need to have a brand that fits that instead of being restricted to it.
Yeah, and my two pending publications right now that hopefully will get accepted, they both involve SWTOR players. The dissertation one, I found other interpretations of the data and wrote that up earlier this year. And also, I did a brief study about how well or not well SWTOR players handle frustration with virtual world tasks and compared that with how well my online students handle their frustrations with virtual world tasks, but not raid bosses. They're the papers I'm assigning them. And
Right.
so I really hope that gets published. So,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I will never do another research study with SWTOR either. I have a couple
No,
ideas, and
yeah.
if SWTOR is a natural fit, or even all MMOs, that's another thing. Like it could be that the study is designed so that WoW, Lord of the Rings Online, and Final Fantasy 14, Elder Scrolls Online, and SWTOR, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, I know that's not all of them. I'm really sorry if I left your game out, anyone who's listening, but just like a laundry list, like these are the games that have the players interact with the virtual world these certain kinds of ways. And I think that I'm really excited when I got my logo from the artist. Oh, by the way, if anyone
Speaking
wants a
of,
logo, yeah, I really encourage anyone who thinks they need a logo, go on Fiverr.com, look at the portfolio for some of the people on there that are in your price range, and you may have no idea what you actually want, but if you find the right person, magical things happen. I wish my logo was on shirts and coffee mugs and this mouse pad like right now. I love it
yeah.
when I look at it.
I'm gonna pull it over so it shows on the stream so that
Oh,
the people
perfect.
watching
Yeah.
the stream can see it. And go ahead and talk to us a little bit about it because it looked like there's definitely a lot of symbology going on. This is the version I pulled just now from Twitter, but I've also seen the version where there's like a swirling circle behind it. But go ahead and tell us like when you worked with your artists, like what sort of symbology were you thinking through, and what the symbols that actually ended up in the logo, what do they mean to you?
Yeah, so I just closed off my camera for a little bit of this so people can see it in lieu of my face. So there's about 5 different things on there that I'm really proud of and excited for. The first is the controller. So with the COVID-19 alterations to our schedules, I realized very quickly that there's 2 games that came out at the beginning of it that I really wanted to be able to stream, and that was Persona 5 Royal, which I'm still working on, and Final Fantasy 7, which I've beaten on the easy difficulty. I'm doing some leveling and collecting materials, and then when I'm ready to dive into hard mode, that's going to enter my channel again for the hard mode challenge. But you play those with a controller. So
Okay.
I told the artist I want a controller that, I said somewhat resembles a PlayStation controller. So obviously it's just left side, right side. There's no control sticks.
Right.
That's fine. But I told her the color scheme. And one of the sentences I gave her after I said that I want a controller is bonus points if you can work in a lightning bolt. So the negative space between the 2 colors on the controller is my lightning bolt. So that's the lightning sorcerer part of me that's always going to be there. is right there in the core of the controller. And then there are 3 or 4 different versions of this that are not anywhere close to the finished product. But eventually we settled on the controller should be in the mind space of the person.
Right. And it's sort of vaguely shaped like a brain too, and it's in the same general location as a brain. So it definitely sort of makes that connection to me.
Right. And then we started talking about how I have begun talking with T-Lop most often on my stream about systemics and how different events from a person radiate out from that person and affect other people. And as a counselor too, that's a really important thing to understand. And so the systemic part, the circuitry, is I really wanted to capture the idea of a brain, and the brain has circuitry as well in the form of brain areas and neurotransmitters, and the electrical signal that goes across the synapse and then into the next transmitter and the next transmitter. If everything fires right, then I will have told my hand to move from over here to over here, right? And so the circuitry there has multiple meanings, but the branching path kind of feeling of it, it's not really branching, but there's 5 different paths. And for me, I felt like in counseling, but also from SWTOR, choices matter. And the games that I tend to gravitate toward and have a real strong psychological opinion of have an element of choice, whether it's harvest the little sister or kill or save so many random people at the end of a heroic mission.
Right.
So the circuitry is there. The profile of the head, I feel almost is me. Like when I look at it, it's not me, but it's close enough that I feel like maybe it works. If I was bald, which we're almost there anyway, quite honestly. And the circle.
And you said you chose the color scheme. Why did you choose what drew you towards white and sort of the sky blue or medium blue?
I told her I like blue, silvers, and whites. And I think that probably on a psychoanalytic side, that's probably my lightsaber choice. Honestly, is the hilt is silver, the blade is blue. Ever since I moved to Orlando in my childhood years, you know, they had the Orlando Magic, so you're surrounded by blue and silver all over the city, and the Skywalker lightsaber is blue. That's, in my opinion, that's the most iconic lightsaber.
Right. Right.
You know, it destroyed all the Jedi children, but also reflected Palpatine's lightning back in his face. Spoilers, sorry. I just ruined 2005 and 19 for everyone.
That's right. All right, I'm gonna move the logo off now because I think we've seen it long enough. We can go back to having the cameras and all.
Yep. And so the last thing I want to draw attention to is the circle. So my favorite thing that I've written post dissertation so far was a analysis of the hero's journey, but in the context of counselor development. And it's still something, that's the one thing where I get to talk about lightsabers, because the Jedi journey is symbolic of the hero's journey. So when I'm in counseling classrooms, if I really feel like I need to academically talk about the development of skills, I can easily go to Dagobah or Octo. I can also talk about, you know, the process of Bilbo and Frodo getting sucked into their quests. We can go with the Odyssey as well if we want to go even more ancient. But that circle is actually on the jacket for most copies of Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell. And reading that book really just took everything that I loved about counseling and added that imagination to it. Led to a publication, but it has led to a lot of the things that I actually am as a person. And probably the reason that I think over time I've advocated for people, for example, to enjoy The Last Jedi is because Luke is just living the dark version of the final third of the journey. You know, trying to be this powerful being with these talents and skills that you're blessed with in a world that doesn't even understand what you're talking about and thinks it's all fake and thinks you're a hoax. And then bad things happen to you too. And it's like, well, screw this. Nobody even thinks Jedi are real anyway. So have fun with the First Order, everybody. That's actually analyzed in depth in the final third of the first half of Hero with 1,000 Faces. And once I realized that, I felt a lot better about The Last Jedi, that maybe Rian Johnson just reads more books than his audience does. Okay, so
it's quite possible.
It's quite possible.
And of course, right, and just in case someone doesn't get the reference, The Hero with 1,000 Faces is a Joseph Campbell book. and it talks about the monomyth, about the hero's journey, and it's
Right.
also one, but more importantly, it's actually like the main influence that created Star Wars. Like when Lucas
That's
was
right.
making Star Wars, he was thinking very specifically about that book and about the ideas behind that book. And that's the reason why Luke's story especially is very, very tightly connected to that particular book and the hero's journey in general. So, and it's interesting though, I wasn't aware that sort of like or almost completed circle is the symbol from that book, but that's good to know.
And also, Joseph Campbell, being a mythologist, he actually spoke with Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung because he was around then.
Right. That
Hero
was
with a
his
Thousand
time. Yeah.
Faces is not a new book, but Campbell was still around into the late 80s. I don't remember if he
Yeah.
made it to the 90s, but he is, in his lifespan, the bridge between the birth of psychology in the form of myth, all of these unconscious things, and then also fiction and telling stories this way. Not that Star Wars wouldn't exist without him or something like Star Wars. I mean, we've had superheroes and comic books,
Right.
video games came into existence certainly without the monomyth.
Right.
But
And of course, the monomyth itself, he realized it, Joseph Campbell did, but it was already out there in multiple forms in multiple places.
that's right.
I
It's
mean,
the
that's the
framework
reason that we
for
have the
telling.
book is because he saw this, this through line through a bunch of stories throughout history, and especially early history. Like you mentioned, the Odyssey, but Gilgamesh and
Right.
all kinds of other
Yeah,
early
the
myths follow
story of
that
the
as well.
Princess and the Frog, Hansel and Gretel, Cinderella, Snow White, Jonah and the whale, uh, all the Greek gods. Um, it's all the same story, and that's when those elements or archetypes are present, our minds connect with them very easily. Whether it's Tatooine or the cupboard under the stairs or the Shire, it's got poetry. It rhymes. And once all these things started, it wasn't really a very long conversation, and me and the artist accomplished all of this with text. It's amazing what she did. Sarah X Designs on Fiverr.com. If you're impressed enough that you want to see what she can do for you, I feel like giving her credit is the right
Yeah.
thing to do with whatever audience I have. But I'm so happy with it, and I think it helps to have, like, it helps me know what my identity is too. That it kind of explains what I'm trying to do when I'm streaming or when I'm talking about SWTOR. So I'm excited for being Dr. Gameology. And you know
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
I almost call myself Dr. SWTOR at least once a day also. So it's fine if you're struggling too.
Right, right. Yeah, well, right, exactly. Changing something that's sort of set in your mind, it does take a little while to change.
Yeah.
You've been obviously very busy with this, and sounds like this is even more recent than I thought. So, have you been playing much SWTOR? What you been doing in game?
Yeah, I've done all of my normal playing. So I helped a 16-man run with Dread Palace last night. We did a flashpoint after
Nice.
the terror. The terror stomped a mud hole in my chest all Thursday night. It was amazing. Um, I actually brought myself to tears by trying to talk about class balance at the end of the raid. Uh, Kind of embarrassing, but I truly stand behind everything I said. Unfortunately, I took the video down. No one can see it. I don't mind explaining, though, like BioWare, you're really breaking my heart with Lightning Sorcerer right now. So if you want me to keep crying, then don't do anything. And we called off Sunday because we had too many people out. And my family is actually going through some really tough things. So I don't want to get into that on the show, but
That's
thoughts and
fine.
prayers and messages through the Force are all welcome. I think positive energy is real, but probably for scientific reasons. I think it helps people to have comfort as they go through their actions. And sometimes our psychology is important for influencing the way our body responds to things. So just keep me in your thoughts and prayers. And I guess that's it. That's where I'm at, Chill.
All right.
I want to hear from you and Dekion too. Thanks for giving me the time to talk about this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, we definitely needed to get that taken care of for sure right away. So, Dekion, how have you been, and what's going on in game for you?
I really got to follow that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I played a little, and yeah, that's about it. All right. No, just the usual. We did the Jar Jar Joyride last weekend, ran some Scum and Villainy.
Nice.
Brought along a couple of new players that haven't either played in a long time, haven't really ever done an op, or haven't played that specific role that they were running. So that was really fun. We made it through. Couple of wipes, but that's expected. Wiping is a normal part of learning. We've all been there, no matter who we are. And we also got a lot of people to get the 16-person achievement for Scumability.
Nice.
Midway through the op, I realized that my crit was really low, and I couldn't figure out why, because it's pretty static on my gear. So I started going through each piece and realized that I was missing my amplified headpiece and my death knell wrist, which included my purple augments.
Yeah.
And
what happened to it?
They probably got mixed up with some Force Lord stuff and got deconstructed. No wonder I was getting so many. Yeah, I wondered why I was getting so many embers for deconstructing things recently. Which led me to start thinking, BioWare, why are set pieces the same color as everything else at 306?
That is an amazing question.
There are so many colors that they could use. Make it red. Make the border red on set pieces, so we instantly can see if we're getting ready to deconstruct a set piece. I mean, come on.
Red on Empire, green on, or not green.
Can't do green. Can't do blue. Can't do purple.
Yellow.
Can't do orange.
Oh, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, red for everything.
Or maybe
because
like
it's legacy bound, so you pass it back and forth.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that's an opportunity to help the branding of the factions.
Yeah, but I don't want them to stop me from transferring my red gear over to my blue player.
Okay.
So
that's fair.
Anyway, Charles, Eric, guys, come on. Change the border color on set pieces. Luckily, it was just death knell. I can go buy that from a vendor, which I've already done. The hard part was to recraft my
augment,
my purple crit augments, 2 of them.
Yep, get a kit
for both pieces.
Yep.
So that's basically what I did on Sunday, was craft all of the components to do harvesting and trying to do that. So, but I made it finally. Sadly, that's about all I've been doing. I had some hardware issues, and I'm still in the process of rebuilding.
Oof.
So I'm sort of limping along on my spare computer, and so that's about it. Chill, do you want to tell us who's here?
Sure, absolutely. Let's see. We've got Clueless Hunters here, Corley, Intisar Nor, Kitty's here, Kitty Kisses, Lofa, Quinex, Scrubland, Shad, Squishy Twitchy, Sursbot, Thicker, Tlop, and Vanilla Unity are all here. Hello, everyone. And let's see. What I've been doing is I got the 4, and now I've got the 5 piece. I've got 5 out of the 6 pieces on the Juggernaut and Guardian. Once I got that fourth set, it really changed how that whole spec plays. It's really amazing. I'm really happy about that. So excited to see how the 6 changes as well. But it's such slow going that I did finally got tired, and I actually decided to go ahead and use the double XP to do some leveling. So, of course, I did get, I got Conquest done on all 4 of the Juggernauts and Guardians, but then I've been leveling other characters. So I leveled a Sniper first as a cosplay of Nick Fury, and that was fun. And then, and right now, I'm leveling a Lethality Operative. Same story, but I decided to do Poison Ivy, and I'm really happy with how she looks. I have a picture of her there. So I was going to do one of the poison specs, or one of the dot specs at least, and it's like, madness, not really poison. And then I looked at of course I went to look at the Scoundrel, because, I didn't want to necessarily see the agent story again so soon after doing Nick Fury. But then I realized, oh yeah, that's right, the Scoundrel dot spec is like bleeds. It's not poisons. So it didn't quite match thematically. So I just buckled down and made her as an operative, and especially so we're doing the stealth instead of the. So it's as different as I can be within that story. So it's because she's the stealther. She's a female, so we'll see a different romance arc, and she's also doing dark side instead of light side, so it's about as different as I can make it feel. But it's a little sad that I had to make it the same story so soon after the other one. I'm still enjoying it though, so it's going well. And I just had one basically huge long last day stream on her, and I basically took her, well, actually I did a tiny bit the day before. She started at level 7 and she's like level 41 or something now, so it went really fast. And without, space barring anything or anything like that, because of course I'm streaming all this. I also, in between those two, leveled a healer for the Smurf Brigade. So I kind of really, when we did because I had a thing to do on Friday at the same time as the Jar Jar Joyride, so I wasn't able to attend the last one. But the one before that, when I got the 5th piece of my set, I also kind of learned about the Smurf Brigade, because I kind of knew that there was a couple people who had characters named Smurf, but I didn't realize it was become this thing,
It's almost like a guild within a guild.
Yeah, exactly. It's this little mini guild, this little Smurf Brigade thing. And so I decided to join in. So I decided to make him as a healer sage, and it was even double XP. It was definitely slower leveling as a healer for sure, and leveling as a healer is not my favorite. It felt very different, but it was interesting, and it definitely taught me a lot about sage healing that I didn't know, so that was pretty cool. So got him up to 75, and I just kind of left it there. We did get through the class story, but not very far beyond it, because double XP is really, really really fast. So I'm really enjoying Ivy, though. She won't have double XP now. It'll kind of slow down, and I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm really enjoying the lethality build. It's a lot of fun, and I think she looks cool too. I've actually got a couple different looks, but I just have that one for a screenshot. So yeah, so I'll be leveling her, but I'm gonna keep going on the Juggernaut Guardian thing and try to get that 6th piece and see how that further changes the rotations and so on. So really looking forward to that. That'll bring us to the tip of the week, and we have a couple tips this week, but they're just from us internally, so no worries there. The tip that I put in at level 15 is Stronghold mission is available on the fleet, also on the Capital Worlds. Please get that mission. If you get it at level 15, it's worth a lot of experience. It's even without double XP, it's like most of a level. But with double XP, or if you have if you're running your XP boosts, or if you have XP gear, any of those, and it really pops it. But in any case, it's a very high experience mission. Plus, you get lots of decorations. You get some other little bonuses, some credits, and some other stuff that comes in the mail. That just kind of follows along on it afterwards. And the basic unlock is all you need for Coruscant or Durman Koss, and those are pretty much within reach of most people. It's 5,000 credits. They do have sales occasionally, but let's just leave that alone for now. 5,000 credits, which, unless it's like your very first character, it's pretty likely to be affordable. So, definitely get it. Also, once you have a stronghold, it's very useful. You can jump into it. If you have a the different, like the GTN and your various storage things. You can do all that and then jump back out of it to wherever you were. If you're a subscriber, you can also go to the fleet or to your ship that way, through your stronghold. It's really, really handy. So stronghold's very, 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 very good to have. Very, very good to have.
Plus the conquest bonuses.
Yes, that's right. You also get conquest bonuses from strongholds. And yeah. So, and that, like I say, that mission does become available at level 15, and go get it. It's a really good one at that level. Then I believe this is your tip, Deck. Did you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
No, I can talk on it.
Go for it.
Having just had a hardware failure, my tip, I guess, of the week would be to always keep an up-to-date backup file of your SWTOR preferences, which contains all of your UIs. Mm-hmm. You can find that on your C drive in the users folder, and you might have to show hidden files, but then you'll see app data within your user folder, and then go to local. In the local folder, you're going to see one folder called SWTOR, SWTOR, and another one called SWTOR Pref, SWTOR PREF. Basically, just copy those to another location. Don't move them, just copy them. Zip them up and either email them to yourself in a cloud-based email, Gmail, whatever you use, or put them on your Google Drive or your iCloud or your OneDrive. And that way, when you do have a hardware failure and you need to move over to a new computer, or you're just transferring to a new computer, you don't have to rebuild all of your UIs. They're automatically there for you. Yeah. And if you have somebody that plays a lot of different classes, your UI is probably set up a bit differently. If you're a healer, maybe your raid frames are a little bit bigger, or if you're a tank, you just want to have a focus on your healer, so if she's trying to heal you, or if you're DPS and you just want to have one move or something. But you're going to have different UIs, and they're sort of they're sort of a pain to get set up exactly like you were used to playing them. So right. This would be my tip of the week if I were to send one in. It's going to save you a lot of time and frustration.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. So they've actually added over time more and more of the other kinds of settings, so that they're actually kept on their servers. But there's a little bit that's still left, and the UI is, if you lose your UIs, it's a real pain. The UI customization is so wonderful in this game, and it really is great to have. But yeah, if you do lose it, then it kind of sucks. So yeah, I think I should actually be doing this, because it's been a long time since I've done it. I wouldn't even know if I even have it in a cloud location anymore. So I should definitely get on that. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Even an addendum to that, just snap a picture with your phone of your toolbars, so you can instantly know where your stuff is. Store them in that zip file, or just have them out there somewhere, so you can immediately get your abilities back. Or if you accidentally don't lock your toolbar during a fight and you start dragging things off, that's a great way. If you don't remember what exactly you had there, but something's missing, it's easy to look back on.
You also might want to, if you know how to do this, you can create a link so that it permanently backs up into a folder that's in a cloud drive, like OneDrive, Dropbox, Google Drive. That way, if you play on a PC and on a laptop, it's right there. That's the most frustrating thing for me, is when I want to play SWTOR on a laptop, just for flexibility reasons, and then you turn it on and your UI looks like it did 2 years ago. It's like, no, that was not even 6.0. Yeah, so this is a really helpful tool, and there's lots of different reasons why it's helpful.
Yeah. And I can tell when a character, if I haven't touched a character for a long, long time, because when I go on to that character finally, it has like the old UI.
Correct. Still a spot for phase walk for your assassin.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh,
ouch.
Phase walk for all.
Right.
Our hashtag.
So if you have a tip of the week, send your tips to OotiniCast@gmail.com before the next show, and you'll get a chance to win a Tonfon or M83R droid pet code, or now an M2B9 droid code, courtesy of BioWare, and an OotiniCast provided cartel market pack from the latest shipment. And I don't think there's a mind trap this week, Doc, but we had a nice conversation about you becoming Dr Gameology. So we'll move on to the holo feed. All right. There's not tons here, but there's one thing that I found, one bit that I found really interesting towards the end. So, but we can touch on some other things here. We've got. We won't necessarily touch about every rating breakdown for every tier, but they do have an article for ranked season 12 PvP rewards. If you look it up, you'll be able to see like how much you'll need to how much rating and how many wins, because they've added that now for the bronze tier, silver tier, and so on. There's going to be season 12 flares, battle flags, decos. And then just like other seasons, every time you go up a tier, you get the previous tier plus whatever's in that next tier. So the new rewards are pretty cool. I especially like the mount, or at least the picture of the mount they've got here. It's sort of bear, cat, ram. It's a crazy looking critter, and it is very vicious looking, and it's pretty awesome. So pretty cool mount there, and I'm looking forward to seeing that, because I'm definitely not going to have it. but it's gonna be cool when we see that in game. It's a very cool looking mount. So, and then they also have pictures of the different various weapons that are also available. This one has lots of like glowing effects, as though the weapon is overheated, kind of, and is starting to glow in various locations. So pretty cool there too. And then there's some sort of skiff as well. They also talk about Season 13. When will Season 13 start? Oh, by the way, Season 12 is not quite over. If you are working towards it, there's a few more weeks until, and then it's going to be when, let me look here, 6.1.2 drops, and that's when it's going to end. Season 13 will then start after that, but it's going to be, all they know at this point is later this summer. So, and then they also say, starting with Season 13, we will reveal the seasonal rewards at the start of the season, so keep your eyes peeled for that announcement, which is pretty cool. So, they've had in times past, like, they've been clearly like scrambling to make sure that they get the right rewards and enough rewards, and they actually announce them during the season. This will be much better. So, let me see. Going on to, let's see. There's also a little bit of information on what happens if you don't get the amount of wins. So, for example, if you're in the top 3 rating for your advanced class, but you do not meet the 200 win requirement, you'll only receive the bronze, silver, or gold rewards that their rating qualifies for. And if you do have 200 wins and you're in the top 3 rating for your advanced class, but your rating falls below the threshold for gold rating, they will still receive the platinum tier rewards, and this is consistent with how they've rewarded top 3 in previous seasons. So yeah, because of the extra rule that you have to have a certain number of wins, not just a certain rating number, they needed to give a little clarification there. There's also some information on the All Worlds Ultimate Swoop Rally, which is coming. And there's a little bit more detail here. So we knew already about there's like 3 different groups, they're gangs on the circuit: the Horizons Razor, the Pit Screamers, and the Blatant Becks. And the Horizons Razors love speed, the Pit Screamers love the big jumps and good piloting, and the Blatant Becks just want to see things blow up. And each gang has a repeatable daily mission for the courses. When you accept a swoop mission, you'll hop on one of the gang's special bikes and use its abilities and its fast speed to take on challenges suited to that gang's taste. And then each planet has its own, there's 3 different planets, and each planet has its own course, and each one has slightly different hazards, as well as different layout. And then one other cool thing that I liked is, outside of the repeatable challenge courses, you'll unlock 3 story missions for each gang as you progress through their reputation tracks. So the more they trust you, the more you'll become part of their inner circle, learning more about each gang, their history, and some of their highest profile members. So there is going to be story involved here, and that sounds really cool. I'm really excited about that. So starting at level 20, you'll be able to participate in the All Worlds Ultimate Swoop Rally. And then you'll level up to gain access to Onderon, and every swoop mission will then be available to you. So let's see. There's swoop rally mounts, there are swoop gang outfits, promotion droid mini pets, and various titles. Those are all some of the rewards available. It was a lot of fun on the PTS. And that was even before they had balanced it. Like I did that very early on, and since then they've retuned it. They've made some of the hazards more easily visible, stuff like that. So it's gonna be a lot of fun, I think. And yeah, so they did want to highlight that although the article did state that the swoop racing is going to be happening, with 6.1.2. And although 612 is going to be going live on June 24th, the new event won't appear until the Conquest reset on June 30th. So the swoop racing will be June 30th. We also know that now that the Nightlife event is going to be returning in July. The more specific details will be coming, and that'll include the exact timing, any changes, rewards, and so on. And they'll let us know as they get closer. So there we go. And we have the big one, at least for me, that I think is really interesting. So Charles went in and said, "Hey folks, apologies for not getting in here sooner." And he's talking about, like, where are we in the game? Because we've now had, several sort of major events. At the beginning of Kotfi, they're very specific about a 5-year period when your character is in Carbonite. But since then, it's been a little, it's a little fuzzy to sort of figure out exactly what the timeline is. So he kind of goes into the timeline. He says, "Before we do that, 2 upfront caveats. Remembering dates never went well for me in history class. Plus, working on the game for so long, I have every different version of everything we ever considered somewhere in my head. So I'm very much capable of error." And then everywhere I look online, I see the Battle of Ilum / end of Class Story Chapter 3 from launch as being listed as 12 ATC after the sacking of Coruscant, or 3641 BBY, so before the Battle of Yavin. This appears to me to be in conflict with the official SWTOR encyclopedia, which places the resumption of war and thus the beginning of Class Chapter 3 in 13 ATC 3640. And I'm going to go with the encyclopedia date below, but feel free to let me know if there's another source somewhere in-game or elsewhere that makes it more clear that. Class stories...
More authoritative than the encyclopedia? Come on, people. Tell them they're wrong, Charles. This is not how content experts work. Right. Drop it on us.
Class stories begin in 10 ATC, given the Ilum date, so basically 2 years roughly before the end of the class story, I guess. Given the Ilum date from the encyclopedia combined with the generally acknowledged class stories collectively occur over the course of about 3 years, I'm going to say that SWTOR begins near the end of 10 ATC, and that the Battle of Ilum occurs near the end of 13 ATC. I like to have the in-game years roughly match IRL years, as it makes keeping track much simpler, and is generally, though not always, in keeping with the intent of the content flow as written. So if Ilum is near the end of 13 ATC, that lines up nicely with the launch of SWTOR being near the end of 2011 in real life. Following these premises... Yeah, go ahead, Doc.
I have a question. I'm raising my hand in the front row. So does that mean that the 3 hours it takes to beat Onslaught is a whole year, or that it's just 6 months, or that, like, we have a time machine?
I think it's not that it takes that long to do. It's probably more like the distance between, like, what happens in the last bit of the story and then what happens in Onslaught, if you get my meaning. Like, a lot of the time would be in there.
I get it, but I'm thinking if this is a full year story, then the Scourge and what's that Jedi's name? The girl one.
Kira,
yeah, that has to be the last 6 months of this year. That's what I'm hoping, right? Because we have the 2 planets plus Osis. I think Osis is part of our year too. And then Jurassic Park, and then we have that's Duxon. And then we have whatever's next.
Okay. All
right?
right.
So
So,
I think those skirmishes could take 2 or 3 months each.
right.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So let's see. Let's see. He gives a nice little timeline here, and like he says, with those caveats. Battle of Ilum and the conclusion of class storylines occurs by the end of 13 ATC. I'm just going to use the ATC because they're a little shorter, but know that 13 ATC is 3640 before the Battle of Yavin, BBY. But I'm just going to do the ATC numbers because it's too much to read otherwise. And it also gets very confusing. So 13, because also this way the numbers will be going up instead of down. Black Hole, Terror from Beyond, Section X, and everything else released in the 2012 in real life occurs in 14 ATC, so the next year. Rise of the Hutt Cartel occurs in early or mid 15 ATC, and Oricon in the latter half of that year, so that's 2013 in real life. Tython and Korriban Invasion happen in early mid 16 ATC, and Shadow of Revan near the end of that year, so that's 2014 IRL. Ziost is early middle 17 ATC, followed within a few months by the events of Sacrifice and the first chapter of Kotfi, 2015 Part 1. The Carbonite Nap from the middle end of 17 ATC until late 22 ATC. So that's in 2015 in real life. The events of Kotfi Chapter 9 and the first wave of Alliance alerts take us into the beginning of 23 ATC, followed by the rest of Kotfi and Kotet by the middle or end of that year. And then the battle for Iokath is in the first half of 24 ATC. Umbara and Kopero occur in the latter half of that year. The Nathema Conspiracy is wrapped up in early 25 ATC, with the attack on Ossus occurring near the end of that year and kicking off the renewed war between the Republic and the Sith Empire. Hearts and Minds follows a few months later in early to mid 26 ATC, with Onslaught in the latter half of the same year. Task at Hand is at the very beginning of 27 ATC. Although our next story release will be following it by several months in real life, it is intended to occur within a couple of weeks of Task at Hand. More of a shift than I would normally like, but real life has intervened, as we all know. He hopes this is helpful, and again, let him know if you find any specific callouts for years that I'm missing, particularly around that end of class stories or Battle of Ilum time frame. Pretty cool. So, yeah, I mean, if your class story begins in 10, that means your character is aged, well, minus the whatever aging you skip because of the carbonite, but anyway, 16 to 17, roughly 17 years have passed between the beginning of your class story and then what's happening like right now in the game. So pretty cool.
Did he just tell us the long way that they've released content every year since the game came out?
That's one way to phrase it, yes.
I think that the Star Wars community has scared everyone into what happens when we tell them that we are wrong as the audience. And so your answers get longer when you're concerned with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, generally speaking, except for the Carbonite map, it's pretty close to just, roughly the time frame that's happening in real life, plus or minus a couple of years. It was kind of interesting. I didn't quite realize that the class story takes 2 years. It feels faster than that, but it's kind of cool to know that it's meant to take like 2, almost 3 years. So I thought that was interesting as well. Was there anything else that kind of jumped out at you? All right.
That was very thorough.
It was very thorough.
Yeah, and I dig this sort of thing. It's nice when you hear from the writers and so on. They actually kind of like get into some of these little details. So for me, that was a lot of fun, and I hope you liked it too. In general Star Wars news, EA announces Star Wars Squadrons, which is a new first-person starfighter dogfighting game. Apparently, there's not going to be any microtransactions. Everything will be earned through gameplay. Which means it definitely won't be a free-to-play game then for sure. I did put in a screenshot from it. There's a video showing the gameplay and so on. It's very cool looking. I have, I have no idea how good it'll be. I'll leave that up to the actual like people who play those sorts of games to tell me. But it's very pretty. Very pretty.
It is. I'm really looking forward to this game, especially EA's announced price at $39.99, which is almost half as much as they've been charging for everything else, with no microtransactions. It almost sounds like they're trying to turn over a new leaf, or maybe they learned some lessons from Jedi Fallen Order, where
again afraid of the audience, Deck. Afraid of the audience.
I'm very much looking forward to this. I grew up playing TIE Fighter and X-Wing and X-Wing Alliance, and the space battles and the dogfighting are my favorite parts of the Battlefront movie or the Battlefront games. So this looks very, very cool. I'm really looking forward to October.
Yeah, I think I might actually try this one as well. I actually never really did the TIE Fighter and X-Wing series. However, I did play a couple, like in the 90s when 3D games were first starting to sort of take off. I did play some of the like World War II dogfighting games that were out there and really enjoyed those. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes with us. And does Doc I know Doc's time is a little short. Did he have to actually go?
I am on the edge of needing to go.
Okay.
So thanks everyone, and I'll see everyone later.
All right, Doc.
Dr Gameology.
Yep. All right. Let's see. We're actually pretty close to the end anyway, so let's wrap this up. We also have a bit of unfortunate, but absolutely understandable news. Star Wars Celebration 2020 has been canceled. That's as of yesterday. People are sad, but everyone knew that was coming, and people are starting to like come up with online things that they can do instead. So I've seen a lot of cosplay contests that are happening between people virtually and stuff like that, and so people are finding ways to sort of do as best they can without seeing each other face to face. But obviously this is a big one, especially for the Star Wars community. This is a really huge con, more than because Comic-Con has a lot of Star Wars, and there's a lot of Star Wars in a lot of places around fandom, but Star Wars Celebration is obviously the premier one. So
right.
Anyway.
We were looking forward to having another SWTOR booth again this year.
That would have been so cool. So cool.
We're definitely not happy about this, but we can completely understand with the circumstances.
Right. Yeah, and it's hopefully, between vaccines and other things, maybe the next year it'll be more reasonable to expect that we can have one again. It's not really Star Wars related, but there's a cosplayer named Yaya Han, and she actually sells like masks that she and a bunch of people that she's contracting with are making, and I actually ordered some so that I can have like a regular mask. I have some like N95 masks, but they're sort of extreme. And also I'd rather keep those for like important things when I really do need to make sure no germs go in or out. I ordered a couple of regular masks to actually have to sort of wear in public when it's not quite so extreme or critical. So, and also support a cosplayer who I happen to admire. So, yeah. All right then. Let's see. It looks like there's some Utini events. Deck, did you want to go over those?
Sure. So
Awesome.
This week we actually have 3 Utini events.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is actually tonight. So if you're listening now, join in with us. Cassandra, one of our DOC officers, is having her achievement hunters.
Nice.
She's doing this on the pub side, and they are running achievements for the bounty hunter event.
Makes sense.
So that begins tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific.
Okay.
And then Friday night, as always, we have our Jar Jar Joyride, which is sort of an introduction to operations in a friendly, non-judgmental, and fun environment. So if you're interested in getting into any sort of in-game or used to be an in-game and kind of got out of it and haven't found a group to run with, come join us. And then Saturday, Ducky, one of our generals in our guild, is having his duck hunt and his Utini 500 race. And he'll probably sprinkle in some bare knuckle brawling, which is we take all of our gear off and just punch.
Right.
Which is actually
I have to find those abilities and put them on my bar.
Exactly. His events usually have the best prizes, so join us for that. And all of these are open.
He does a great job. It's also really fun. The race is always hilarious. Like people are trying to find the quickest ways and like see how you can shave time and stuff like that. That's always fun. But the duck hunt is always fun too. He always finds some interesting spot to hide, and then we have to go find him. Usually it takes a few hints. Usually, although people are clever. I mean, usually like after like one hint is usually about when people normally cotton on to where he is. But that's always fun. So I should be available for both of those. At least I want to be at this point. I'll try to get to both of those. I don't think I'll be able to be at the achievement hunt tonight, but but I'll definitely look to be at the big duck hunt and the Utini 500. That'll be a lot of fun. So
yeah, those are fun, especially when you get 20 players together that are all the same speed. And so, trying to figure out, can I shave off, a tenth of a second or 3 or 4, meters just to kind of get next to somebody or in front of somebody if I go around this tree the other way.
Yes.
That's where, strategy and tactics really start coming in.
And usually jumping actually loses you a little bit of speed, but there are times, when you need, if you do jump over something, then you can, avoid having to go around it, stuff like little things, and they add up. It's a lot of fun. And then of course I get stuck somewhere, and then it's like, oh man, I just I gave up my lead.
Your mount or
yeah, exactly. So obviously if people are in the guild, that's great, but you don't have to be in the guild for this. If you do the C join Utini, which is also how you do join the guild if you want to, the Utini channel is where people will be getting together to join in on those. So all right. Anything else then, Dek?
I think that's it.
Cool then. All right then. I think that's a show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Satil Shan server, or in our guild on the Empire side, do a /C join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then let us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to UtiniCast to OotiniCast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter using @UtiniCast. You can find contact details for all of us on our website, OotiniCast.com, which includes how to subscribe to us using iTunes, Stitcher, and the rest. We record the show live bi-weekly on Tuesdays, noon Pacific. Go to OotiniCast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is Doomsday by Jean-Paul Zogby, and thanks to the chat room, and thanks, Dek.
Thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah, and we'll see you next show. All right. Thanks for coming, everyone. We'll go ahead and stop it there. I'll do my editing and so on, and then I'll be doing a stream probably later today, get some more leveling done on Ivy. And how about you, Dek? Are you going to be doing the achievement one today, or are you?
No, I think I'm still going to try to rebuild. I've got some parts now. I had to replace my motherboard and my CPU, so I'm going to be working on that.
Nice. All right. Well, good luck with that. That's always exciting.
It used to be.
yeah. It's like so much easier than it was in the old days, and yet it's still very stressful. So I wish you luck.
Thank you.
All right, and thanks for coming, everyone. Bye.